George Odlum National Stadium and the National Individual Championships here on this Saturday morning. We're about halfway through the morning session already. A number of events already gone. Terry Finisterre here with Makiba Al-Seed. Good morning, Makiba.
Good morning, Mr. Finisterre.
And Makiba, we've already seen the completion of the shot puts men, the 400-meter heats for men as well, the 100-meter girls heats, and right now we have taking place the 100-meter heats for boys, youth under 18, as well as the shot put for girls.
Yes, and in the boys shot put youth, we saw Jesse Sen 4 of the St. Lucia Sports Academy coming in first there with a throw of 10.97 meters. We have Nia Mermi, also of the Sports Academy, coming in second with 10.13 meters, and then in third would be Denzel Phillips of the SP Survivors with 9.47 meters, and that would have been the final. In the final of the men's open, we saw Craig William of Roadbusters with first place, 10.22 meters. Afali William coming in a close second, 10.21 meters. And Michael Popotti of the Sports Academy, 9.95 meters.
And the girls doing their thing just beyond the men whom you see there, the young men getting ready for heat 3 of 3 in the boys 100-meter youth. It looks as though we may have a couple of absentees from this heat, but we can see 187 there just fixing his blocks. Zikan Hippolyte of Survivors. Stood next to him Kushal St. Rose of Pace Setters, just there crossing his legs and going through his warm-up paces. In lane 5, Guyan Charlemagne of Rockets, just 13 years old, in the orange tunic. And then in lane 7, closest to the bottom of the screen, Alton Joseph of Night Riders. I think Alton, a former juvenile champion in St. Lucia, as they take their marks. And they're off to a clean start, just the 4 boys in this one. Hippolyte, St. Rose, Charlemagne, Joseph. And it's looking very much like St. Rose taking this heat comfortably and confidently. Just 3 heats, so we'll be going from here to the final. This will be a semi-final for this event as we get ready for the 100-meter dash women's open semi-finals. And so from those boys heats, the top 2 in each heat would advance, plus the next 2 best times. So you'd have 6 athletes qualifying to the final by virtue of their position, and then you'd have a further 2 qualifying by virtue of their time. Qualifying to the final from the girls, we have leading the pack Brittany Mangal and Sierratina Hilaire, qualifying by virtue of time. Qualifying by virtue of position, Clariana De Rose, Jamil Francis, Hadassah Papius, Frijan Jabatis, Naomi London, and Hannah Charles, as we take in some of the girls' shot put taking place right now. Shot put, we have just 4 athletes in it this morning. Zoya Jamari. It's absent, unfortunately. But we do have Joy Edwards, Nia Jules, Siobhan Pascal. I believe we have Shamina Clement as well in there. Closest to your screen, however, we have as you see, Nia Jules walking away from an attempt in the shot put. And we're going back to the women's 100-meter dash open. Nicole Farrell of Knight Riders set to go in lane 3. Kiana Casimir, Rockets Athletics in lane 5. Nalia Albert of Pacesetters in lane 6. Kayla Charles of Survivors in lane 7. And competing unattached to coming out of the United States, where she's just completed her studies at Butler Community College, Zadie St. Louis, normally known as a middle distance athlete, but competing today in the 100 as we're back in the shot put. I believe that's Shamina Clement, the Roadbusters. Long, lanky frame. Good for the throws. Zadie St. Louis, closest to the camera. Her colored hair, long, one of her remarkable features. And she'll be aiming to show her prowess in this sprint here today. And Zadie has won titles in St. Lucia at 800, 400. I think she's won 200 as well. So great range. Competed last year for Butler Community College in the cross country, and as well indoor this year and outdoors, principally in the 800-meter run. So it's Farrell, Casimir, Albert, Charles, and St. Louis. And they're off cleanly. No early advantage taken. But here comes Charles. Charles, closely followed by St. Louis across the line. Kayla Charles of Survivors taking this first of 2 heats. The top 3 athletes will qualify to the final by virtue of their position. So the young ladies in 4th and 5th will be awaiting the results from the next heat, to see how they will fare in terms of advancing. But it looks as though we will have just 1 woman eliminated, because we only have 4 in this heat. So in fact, this well could have been a straight final, because we do have 9 lanes here on the 100-meter straight. We'll come back to the 100 meters momentarily as we head over to the shot put once again. And Clement of Roadbuster, one of the youngest athletes in this field, a couple of youngsters, Shamina Clement and Nia Jules, 15 and 14 years old. So as previously indicated, it's likely that we will just have 1 woman eliminated, if anything, in the 100 meters. But going back to the shot put, Didn't get the number of that athlete there. .47 meters distance. They're getting ready to go once again in this heat 2 of 2 prelims of the 100 meters. Joy Edwards survivors, Kayla Thorpe, Morn Stars, Maya Hippolyte survivors, and Sienna McFarland of pace setters close to the camera. May have been a faulty start there, and starter appears to have had a problem with the starting device. So the athletes will reset physically and mentally, get ready to go once again. Makiba, I don't know if you were watching the US Nationals last night. They had some serious problems with their blocks and their starts. In the 110 hurdles, there was one heat which was restarted 6 times. As we see Miss Clement once again in action. See if we can get her distance on this throw. We'll come back to the shot. Once again, Edwards, Thorpe, Hippolyte, McFarland. They're off cleanly this time. And it looks as though it is going to be Maya Hippolyte. Maya Hippolyte runs away with this heat, followed in the qualifying positions by Joy Edwards and Kayla Thorpe. So we'll get you an update momentarily as to what's happening in the shot put women's as we get ready for the men's 100-meter dash. Five heats, I think, in the Jamaica Olympic trials this week. There were some 73 men entered for the 100-meter dash, which is a lot of entries, even for Jamaica.
Getting ready to throw there in the women's shot put, we have Nia Jules. At the start of the 100 meters, we could see our athletes being sanitized as they go to start their blocks. There goes a red flag for Miss Nia Jules of the Sports Academy on that attempt. Up next in that women's shot put event, we see Siobhan Pascal, also of the Sports Academy, getting ready to throw in the first heat of the men's 100 meters. Out of the 5 heats, we have in lane 2, in the preliminary round, we have Jano Henry of Survivors. Then we have Donnell Fletcher in lane 3. In lane 4, Sigmund Daniels. In lane 5, one of our collegiate athletes, Dylan Edwin. In lane 7, we have Harvey Pierre. And in lane 8, we have McAfee Matthew. Dylan Edwin, he currently attends Texas A&M Commerce, and that was him just getting off of the blocks there, practicing. He has a fastest time of St. Lucia right now, 10.45 seconds. So we hope to see a very fast start from him.
Don't worry, you can't go nowhere. So you want? No, I have to get up. No. This is have to get up for you.
One of the men's 100-meter dash, just the top athletes will advance to the next round, plus the next 3 best times. So the top athlete in each of these heats will go into the final, as well as the next 3 best times. Jano Henry, survivors. Donnell Fletcher, elite. Sigmund Daniels, survivors. Dylan Edwin, competing unattached. Isaiah Johnson, unattached. Harvey Pierre, pace setters. And McAfee Matthew, Sports Academy. Keep your eye out in lane 5 for competitor number 199. They're off cleanly. Edwin looking good early. As he should, fastest man in St. Lucia this year, competing at Texas A&M Commerce in the United States, where he is an NCAA Division II All-American and national champion, winning the relay with his team over at Texas A&M, Mickey Ferdinand, also at Texas A&M Commerce. And you see Edwin there. Edwin coming late into athletics, in his late teens, in fact, but heading off to university.
Yeah, Terry, he's about 4 years into his track and field career.
Basically started athletics and then went straight to university, and now an All-American, national champion in the United States and back home, and hoping to win a national title this weekend. And of course, Makiba, you'd be familiar with the feeling of being an NCAA contender, having been a previous NCAA record holder.
Yes, yes. But we just saw a throw by Joy Edward of the SP Survivors. He was just in the 100 meters, so coming off the track and right into the throwing.
Joy leads the event, previous throw of 10.83 meters, well ahead of anybody in the field. Anna Claxton, who's the young lady we were trying to identify earlier, she came into the event late from Night Riders. She's second on 8.81 meters. Siobhan Pasca is actually the young lady that we were looking at earlier from Sports Academy, 6.91 meters. And Naya Jules is in fourth on 6.42 meters.
And we also see the boys setting their blocks, and that will be heat 2 of 5 in the prelim round of the men's 100-meter dash. In lane 3, we have Vincent Mitchell of Elite. 4, Gavin Donai, SP Survivors. In 5, we have Miguel Shalry, Rockets. Wesley Devers in 6 from SP Survivors. Jaluk Edwin in 7 of Elite. And we have Irvin Mangro of pace setters in 8.
And once again, lane 5, the favored lane in this one, with Miguel Chalri having competed very well so far this season. It's been a brief season, just 3 meets, a couple of league meets where we only had a limited number of events, and a St. Lucia Sprint Invitational a couple of weeks ago, where again, obviously, we just catered to, as the name implies, the sprints. But Miguel has competed very well. Former Carifta athlete, has competed for St. Lucia on the regional scene. Schools champion several times over for St. Mary's College.
Yep, and it's very unfortunate that we didn't see the Caribbean Games happen over the last 2 years, especially if our athletes getting older and missing that opportunity for regional representation.
Absolutely. And Makiba, you took what? So was it silver, was it? 12 years ago, right at this venue. 12 years ago. Time does fly,
Wow,
doesn't it?
time does fly.
They're off to a clean start in the 100-meter dash. Heat number 2, men. And Chalri challenged, but he manages to come away with the win over Gavin Donai. As they approach the line there, Chalri just taking what looks like a very, very narrow win over Donai. Donai, a multi-sport athlete. But Makiba, you're telling me he also is a
Yes.
pugilist. He's a boxer. He's part of the school's boxing program.
Yes, he's part of the school boxing program.
Oh, and what school is he at?
Oh, he's out of school now.
Oh, he's out of school. Okay, but
Just
he's,
finished up at
yeah,
Stafford.
yeah. Yeah, the school's boxing program revived, of course, with the advent of the new boxing gym at Vigi. A lot of resources being put into that sport, so happy to see that this young man is able to express himself in both the ring and on the track.
Yes.
And 20 years old, but just coming in a very, very close second there to young Miguel Chalri. Miguel Chalri will advance to the final. So a lot of men will be sweating on these next 3 best times, these qualifying times, or these qualifying spots by time. A lot of guys will be sweating on those. All of the guys who are coming in 2nd and 3rd and even 4th in some of these heats will be looking to see what happens in the remaining heats, to see whether they'll be able to advance to the final or whether they'll be shut out.
Yep, and we only know that 8 advance to the final from these 5 heats. And top 1 in each heat, and then the next best three times. So unless you win your heat, you'll be sweating, right?
You'll be sweating. Well, if you're in 5th or lower, you're not sweating either, because you know that's on to the next event. You're getting ready for your 200 or your long jump or perhaps your 4x1, but that's pretty much it for you. As I don't know if we can get Joy Edward back on screen there, getting ready for her remaining attempts, as she would have been asked to belay those attempts because she was going in the 100 meters as well. So she gets to retake those, well, not retake, but she gets to take those attempts that she would have missed by virtue of being in the 100 meters. And like her coach, who's sitting right next to me, Makiba Al-Sid, the left-hander, and Makiba, you don't look very pleased about that effort there.
No, not very pleased with that effort at all. This is Joy's first year being in the under 20 or the open category, so she's up to the 4K, in the 4K
Right.
now. So she's working on some things, but still, we expect a little bit more better execution of the put there.
Joy, a couple of years ago, very close to making the Carifta Games. And I'm sure Makiba would agree. I thought she was perhaps a little bit unfortunate not to have been selected to go. Her results would have put her certainly in good stead. As we see the young lady there from Knight Riders, Anna Claxton. Not originally entered in the event. She came in to this round sitting in second place. And it sounds like she just threw 8.87 meters, so a little bit of an improvement on what would have been a previous best throw. As we get ready for heat 3 of 5 in the 100 meter series. One absentee, it looks like. It looks as though we will have lost Deshaun Fannis of Knight Riders, but we do have 3 athletes in this one. Brendan Cherubin of Knight Riders, he's 29 years old. Kemal Pelage of Survivors, I think he just recently joining Survivors. And Asa Lionel competing unattached. Pelage, the youngest of the 3 in this heat. He's just 18 years old. He'd be fresh out of the youth ranks. It would be under 18. Back to the shot put women, Joy Edward. And as Makiba said a little while ago, moving up to the 4 kilogram shot, which is what she'll be throwing for the rest of her life. Women throw the 3K at the under 18 division, and then they throw the 4K in the under 20, as well as in the senior woman. Number 180. Full execution there, and she's not happy with it, so she steps over the stop board and deliberately draws a red flag. We do have white flags, however, for the 100 meter dash, heat number 3 of the prelims. And so we'll be going back to that event. Our men there, Brendan Cherubin, Kemal Pelage, Asa Lionel. Pelage getting some support with his blocks. Athletes just being reminded that the line does not belong to them and they are not to infringe upon it. Off to a clean start. It's Cherubin, lane 4. Pelage, lane 5. Lionel, lane 8. And it looks fairly even there, but just Asa Lionel perhaps just pipping it towards the end from Brendan Cherubin. 2 experienced, canny competitors. They know each other well. And always a reminder that it's the torso that counts, as we see Asa Lionel just taking that heat there from Brendan Cherubin. Kemal Pelage bringing up the rear, but he'll still be awaiting the times from all of the other heats to see how he fares in terms of his chances of making the final. Two more heats in this men's 100-meter dash. Have a number of other events coming up this morning. Women's discus throw, men's discus throw open. You've already seen the 400-meter dash prelims, certainly for men. Makiba should be getting us the results shortly of the shot put women. Event number 4, the 100-meter dash men's open preliminaries. Augustin Vitalis unattached are going in lane 2. Tyler Toussaint of Survivors in lane 3. I think that's him just coming out of his blocks there. Zachary Edmond of Monstars. His hands on his hips there. Dwayne Mason, Night Riders. Just turning away from the camera briefly. Shelton St. Rose. Competitor of some pedigree from Choiseul, 20 years old, in lane 8. St. Rose, semi-finalists 2, or was it 3 years ago, I believe? 3 years ago at the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where Julian Alfred was a silver medalist. And then in lane 9, Kelly Charles. That's Dwayne Mason on your screen right now. Dwayne Mason, lane 6, Night Riders. And then Kelly Charles will be to the far left in the fluorescent green shirts. Everyone present and accounted for. Vitalis, lane 2, Toussaint, lane 3, Edmond, lane 4, Mason, 6, St. Rose, 8, and Charles, 9. They're off cleanly. Look out for Shelton St. Rose of Choiseul. Shelton St. Rose making the early running, and he's coming confidently across the line. Actually, just his second 100-meter run of the season, and he takes it confidently and advances to the final. Arms a little bit choppy, Makiba, but looking fairly unbothered as he crosses the line in first place.
Yeah, that looked like a comfortable win for him.
Augustin Vitalis, unfortunately, unable to finish. So he's in some distress. Fortunately, the medical team is running across to his assistance. Because we have 2 competitors down, actually. Asa Lionel there, just assisting Augustin.
Asa is also Augustin's coach, so checking on his athletes.
And we have another young man on the track. Can't quite make out who it was. Perhaps Mason. Fortunately, we have a sufficiently big medical team that we can see to both athletes. So both athletes being taken care of, Mason and Vitalis. And again, Makiba, one of the dangers of having. We want to be able to provide opportunities for the athletes, but training has been somewhat compromised, and preparation for a number of the athletes would not necessarily have been the best coming into this meet today.
And we are getting ready for our 5th and final heat of the men's 100-meter dash. We have in 1, Lenin Leos of Monstars, Laquan Antoine in 2 from SP Survivors, Nick Joseph of Chozel in 4, Noel Tribune of Survivors in 5, Ken Smith also of Survivors in 6, Naeem Anderson from Elite in 8, and we have Darian Roberts in 9. Darian is also part of the Monsters Athletics Club.
Leos also part of that class of 2009 when the Carifta Games were held at this stadium, winning the long jump. Went on to the University of Wyoming. On screen, Laquan Antoine, Survivors. And at the top of your screen there, just at the back of those other athletes, we see Lenin Leos of Monstars in orange. Wearing bib number 57.
And Lenin Leos has just started back sprinting instead of jumping.
Yes.
So we're seeing him trying to find his rhythm again in that event.
Yes, he was a winner at the Sprint Invitational a couple of weeks ago in the 200. Dylan Edwin, I believe, won the 100.
Yeah. And that official there in that orange, in that yellow hat, that's one of our collegiate athletes also, Rochelle Etienne at Missouri State.
One of our fine javelin throwers as they get off cleanly. Most of them get off cleanly. And as expected, it's Lenin Leos looking very good running away from the field. And he takes this heat very, very easily and comfortably.
And that looks like Noel Tribune of SP Survivors was the one who fell out of the blocks there.
And Antoine in second in that heat. So he'll be fancying his chances to have set a fast time and perhaps advance to the final as we conclude this 100-meter men's series. Lenin Leos wrapping things up as he wins that heat. Shelton St. Rose also in the mix. He will be amongst the favorites for the final. Brendan Cherubin of Night Riders winning in Heat 3. Heat 2 was taken by Miguel Chalry of Rockets, one of the younger athletes in this field. And of course, Dylan Edwin, fastest man in St. Lucia for 2021. He won Heat number 1. He's competing unattached, and he will be hoping to come away with a national title this weekend here at the George Odlum Stadium. You're watching the St. Lucia National Track and Field Championships.